So, welcome back. We're talking with Tracey Lockwood, a medium. And before the break, I wanted to ask you a question. Dementia and Alzheimer's.
Oh, good
From
one.
your perspective, what is going on with that? Or can you answer that?
I do have a perspective on that because it came up during a reading, and it's a very unusual one. And it's kind of an involved one. I'm going to take a little note for myself about, and okay, that'll keep me on track here. Yes. First of all, I want to explain sort of a preliminary base to that. And that is that when we are getting ready to come into this earth, we are in our mother's womb. We're in darkness, and we're connected to our mother by the umbilical cord. And our spirits pass in and out of our bodies. They aren't resident in our body. In Islam, they say that the spirit isn't resident in the body until 3 months. I don't even know if it happens at 3 months. I just know I've talked to a lot of spirits that have been aborted or have, been miscarried or died before birth. And I know that that spirit is attached to that person, but it's almost like their consciousness or their perception is not always present. It's like they kind of drift between the realms. And as that child is born, they pass from darkness into light, and that umbilical cord is severed, and they inhale. And they're here in the physical world. And we are connected to the next realm by a silver cord. And if we have time toward the end to, as we are declining toward the end, our spirit starts drifting in and out and seeing and feeling things from the other side. And when we pass from darkness to light, that silver cord is cut and we exhale. So really the dimensions are only separated by half of a breath, which is very interesting to think about. And so then my question was to my guides, well, if that's the case, then what happens, like with people, what ties us together with the other side, when we're here, not the silver cord thing, but with people on the other side? And the answer was, that's the cord of love. And that cord can never be cut, can never be severed. Mm. And so I was doing a reading for a woman, and her mother had passed, and she had suffered dementia. She had suffered Alzheimer's. And so she wanted to know some details about that. And her mother explained to her that, in fact, I think perhaps her mother was still living when we did that reading. I will correct that. And her mother was explaining, and when I talk to someone, whether they're living or past, it's a soul-to-soul communication. It's telepathic in a mental connection, and it's empathic in an emotional connection. And the stories come more completely from the empathic level than the telepathic level, actually, because the language of our world is words, and the language of the other world is emotions. So as I connected with her mother started explaining. She showed me an image of herself sitting on top of a very tall, almost Himalayan mountain. And she was sitting like a Buddhist monk in an orange robe on top. And she started talking to me about being in the now. And she said, why is it so upsetting? We strive, like Eckhart Tolle, stay in the now, taught us, or the Buddhists have taught us, to be present, to be now. Why is it so upsetting to everyone that I'm in the now? And she was living in that present space. Now, she also was transitioning between spaces, so she was seeing spirit much more easily. And something even more interesting was shown to me, and that was that she was serving a higher soul purpose. And this kind of blew my mind, because I wouldn't have thought of it this way, because we don't categorize or quantify things that way in daily life. But she explained that if you imagine like life is a little ball of clay, the earth, and then you as a spirit come in and you enter life, that you make your impression, but someone that has vacated their mind, whether they have a special need, or whether they are suffering dementia, or they're in a coma, they're holding a place in the physical world. They're holding a material place, and there is a stronger connection and a stronger ability for spirit to work in the physical realm if there is that plug-in, if there's that little space that's been connected. And it's almost like the person themselves sort of graciously steps aside so that spirit can continue to work through the physical realm more immediately and more directly while they're not present. So I just found it an interesting perspective that she was choosing to serve a higher soul purpose, that she was actually serving higher purpose in spirit, that she was living in the now, and that she was passing back and forth between that. Plus we have our time zones, our past, our present, and future. And some people say there is no time. Some people say that time is linear. Some people say time is stacked. And all of us have past lives. So there's a whole, there are so many different ways that our perception can be informed. Sometimes it's through vicarious experience. Sometimes it's through our own. And that's what I have to say about dementia.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because you also mentioned people who are in a coma. And so they're experiencing sort of that same thing, you think?
Yes. And you know what? You do it every day.
Go into a coma?
Not a coma.
Damn it, I didn't know that you went into a coma every day.
Yeah, well, but
I wrap my bat wings around
every
me.
night for at least a little while we go to sleep. And what's going on while we're sleeping? Our body is resting, and our brain is part of our physical body. That's why we can have a brain injury, but still comprehend completely, but maybe not be able to vocalize a word. Like if we've had a stroke, we understand what we're trying to say. We're perceiving everything going on, but we're not able to communicate that. The brain is resting during sleep or during a coma, but our mind, our perception, is never eternal. Our consciousness is eternal. It doesn't need to sleep. It's like got stuff to do. So it will go, and we will visit the other side. We'll go get education over there to beef up on whatever, get some notes like how do I handle this situation, etc. We might visit some of our relatives. Often when people have an experience on the other side, with someone that's passed to the other side, they will come in their dream state. And that's because the left brain is sleeping. So the right brain, or our perception, can more easily accept, yeah, grandma's here, and
yep, that's interesting.
And we also sometimes function as facilitators while we're out of body. We might go help someone else. And if we have a higher evolution in the spiritual spectrum, then we might actually serve as a guide while we're sleeping. We can do that when we're in trance. We can do that probably while we're awake too, but we're active when we're sleeping. We're eternal. So it's not like we need the rest.
Just the physical body does. I've even found myself outside of my body. I've experienced that silver cord when I thought I was awake and walking through my home, and turned around and looked, seeing my husband sleeping in bed, and this thing trailing to my body, which is in bed. And totally, as soon as I recognized that, then I snapped back,
Oh,
right
that's
next to my
so cool
body.
to be aware of that,
Yeah.
I have another story. I don't know if you'd like me to share another one that's a completely different type
Yes.
story.
Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back and you can share that story. All right, we'll be right back.